Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media DemoCast. On today's event, I'm excited to be joined by VMware, featuring the VMware Cloud Foundation. Now, before we jump into the demo, there's a few things you need to know about the DemoCast. The DemoCast is a new regular series of events from Actual Tech Media, where you'll learn about one product, one technology, you'll see it in action, and you'll do it all in hopefully under 30 minutes. And the coolest thing about this event is, in the time that it takes to eat your lunch, we're going to skip right through the salesy stuff. We're going to just jump right into the technology. The Twitter hashtag for the event is DemoCast. You guessed it. It's brought to you by Actual Tech Media, and I am David M. Davis. You can follow me on Twitter there. Send me a message. Glad to talk to you anytime. If you have questions during the event, please use the GoToWebinar questions box there and ask those questions. We have an awesome VMware expert on the event today to answer those questions. We want this to be a really educational, relatively informal, fun event. So that's the DemoCast. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. Today, I will be your moderator. I'm David M. Davis, 8-time vExpert from Actual Tech Media. You might know me from my Pluralsight video training courses mostly on VMware vSphere. And I'm excited today to be joined by Mr. Ryan Johnson, also known as 1030 AM on Twitter. He's a staff technical marketing architect at VMware. Ryan, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me on, David. Long time no see.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you have a slide talking a little bit about yourself later, so we'll save your contact information and your story for that slide. So
sure.
Exciting demo today, talking about VMware's Cloud Foundation. With that, I'm going to hand control over to Ryan to take it away.
All right, show my screen and minimize all my stuff, and we will get started. So the first thing, guys, is because I want to kind of level set, I do have a couple quick slides real quick, and then we'll kind of get into the demos. So it is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you for all the nerds out there, including myself. So again, like David said, my name is Ryan Johnson. I'm a staff technical marketing architect at VMware, and my primary focus is focusing on the software-defined data center, the culmination of how do we take all the aspects of the pieces and parts of a software-defined data center, from compute, storage, networking, and management, and how we put those into a unified Sdbc platform. And what my focus is primarily on VMware Cloud Foundation, as well as VMware Validated Designs. You can reach me on Twitter at 1030 AM, or if you feel like emailing me, I'm happy to answer questions. It's johnsonryan@vmware.com. So to kind of get started, a lot of people have heard about Cloud Foundation. We kind of had our coming out party, if you will, around VMworld last year in 2016 in Vegas, and it was mentioned a lot up on stage. But the whole goal around Cloud Foundation is, how do we create a create a standardized, integrated, unified approach to building a software-defined data center's functional layers, right? And so what we've done is created a standardized cloud design that's based on a pre-validated, tested by VMware, all using all our best practices that come from our VMware Validated Designs, and putting that into a system that is a full stack, right? Uses modern infrastructure. So everybody's probably familiar with hyper-converged infrastructure, taking compute and storage and putting those together. We actually go to a next level, what we like to call the kind of the next generation HCI, because we're also including NSX, right? So network layer 2 through layer 7 network virtualization built into the Cloud Foundation platform. We make it very modular, very elastic. We can expand, contract, delete resources, the ability to provision things such as Horizon on top, so we can do virtual desktops. And so it's a single software stack, right? vSphere, the compute virtualization, vSAN, NSX, and this other piece called Sdbc Manager. And what I really want you to understand is it's not just a software bundle. It's not like you just take those three things at the top there and have Cloud Foundation. It's a full integrated stack, and this Sdbc Manager is really the sweet spot that gives us the ability. It's an engineered solution, gives us the ability to automate the entire stack, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. But like I said, this Cloud Foundation really unifies everything together for a complete SDDC platform using vSphere, vSAN, right, NSX for layer 2 through layer 7 network services, and this SDDC manager piece, this new capability. And it can be used both for the on-premises private cloud implementation, but it's also used in the public cloud or for the as a service. So you've probably heard about IBM Bluemix, and they have a Cloud Foundation, right, option on IBM Bluemix. You've heard the things around AWS, VMware Cloud on AWS. You've heard VMware Cloud Foundation on top of vCloud Air, and vCloud Air network partners. But those are other routes to market on for the public cloud, right, space. And so the whole benefit is how can we make it really quick and easy for you to deploy private cloud really quick, really fast, give you that hybridity so you can link the on-premises to the public cloud offering as well, and just make it really, really super fast for you to deploy your apps and services on it. And one of the things I want to kind of focus on, and where we're going to get these demos here, is we automate the entire deployment and bring up of the entire stack for you. And you can achieve it in kind of two different ways for the on-premises side, which we'll talk about here. For the on-premises side, you can kind of build your own, so to speak. You can get all the pieces and parts that are on the Cloud Foundation compatibility guide, which are listed on the standard compatibility guide. And you can rack and assemble that hardware, right? You can also get the same things through things like Dell EMC with a vExpert SDDC, where it's all pre-configured for you. But what we're going to focus on is when you bring this in and you stand this up, you have the ability to bring everything online. It starts up, this new solution called SDDC Manager comes online, and it looks and has introspection to all the systems that are built into all the compute nodes that are built, all the switches that are built into the design, and it validates that, hey, is everything online? Is it ready to be consumed? And then providing literally just a few screens of inputs, very specific inputs like, hey, what's your DNS? What's your NTP? What do you want to call this thing? We can automate the entire deployment for you. And then we actually create, what we call management domain. Think of it as a management cluster. And we prepare vSphere, NSX, vSAN, bring everything online for you so that you're now ready at that point to operate your SDDC and start taking physical resources and carving them up into logical capacity so you can do things like put apps on top of them, right? The traditional apps or the new cloud native apps. And one of the cool parts about the whole process is that this SDDC manager has the ability to simplify our day, not only our day 0, but also through day 2 operations for the entire stack. So one of the really cool pieces, we bring it up, we configure it, we deploy it, we configure it, we do all policy-based, configuration and provisioning. But we have this whole concept of patching and updating. And one of the key goals is how can we make it easy for our customers to patch and update the entire stack, right? Instead of looking at KB articles and do I update my NSX manager before I do my PSCs, or which one do I do first and which ones are compatible, we make that easy because we do it for you, we validate and test it and do that entire operation for you. So under a couple clicks, you can update an entire environment with a couple clicks, and we'll show that in the demo here. So with that, I'm going to flip over to some demos. And these are demos that are based off some video recordings. So these are what we call some of our new offline demos that we're working on. I see my director's on, so this is one of his babies. But what we're going to start here is we've already done in this demo. We've already done this imaging process. We've already laid down kind of ESX and bootstrapped our nodes so we can actually start bringing these things online to this bring up process. And here, I can see that I've got 12 nodes, I've got a management switch, and I've got 2 top-of-rack switches that have all been imaged, they're been ready, all the code's been put down for ESXi, I bootstrapped the first node, and put some aspects of SDDC Manager, some other OVAs on top of those, and I've actually configured the switches, right? And the cool part about SDDC Manager, not only can it configure vSAN ready nodes that are sitting there, there's 12 vSAN ready nodes. It also has the ability to configure the management switch and the top of rack switches and spine switches. So it configures the VLANs, the flag aggregation groups, etc. for me. So it's a very, very powerful tool. What we're going to pick up here is actually show the process of configuring Cloud Foundation. So we'll start, you'll have a jump box, you'll connect it to your management switch, and we'll connect to Cloud Foundation's initial bring up UI. And what we'll do is that we'll set the time for this. So we'll say, you know, the time in this example when I recorded it was in December of 2016. We'll set the time, you know, approximate time here. And this will allow it to go through and set the time on all the components. So this Sdbc manager sets the time and time on all the ES6i hosts, the switches, as well as the database instance, the Cassandra-based instance that's running on it. We'll click on continue here, and what's happening in the background is now we're doing this power on system validation. We're checking to make sure all the hosts are in a ready state. The condition of the software bundles that will configure for NSX, vSAN, ESX, and any other ancillary components are ready to be deployed and configured. We'll check the status of our physical resource manager, which manages kind of the inventory of all the physical assets, as well as the hardware management service that gives us the ability to talk to things like the switches inbound and out of band, as well as things such as our switches, and do interesting things with those. We'll click on continue here. You can see the processes that have run, and we'll put in our username and password. And by default, it's the administrator, vSphere local. We'll put in that password, which is VMware123, in the ducks, right? And then we'll log in. We'll obviously accept our EULA after we've read that entire agreement, and it's going to ask us for a new username and password. Here, we're basically creating a super user, right, outside of the administrator vSphere local. And in this example, I created one called Sdbc admin. I'll give it a unique complex password, and I'm off to the races, and I'll create my super user here. This is just an addition. Instead of continuing to use the administrator vSphere local, we can go ahead and establish another user. Obviously, when you get done, you can still link this into, say, Active Directory to use Active Directory authentication. And here we're presented with things like, hey, what do you want to call this rack? And I named this rack, the first rack in this instance, VCF Rack 01. I gave it an interesting name. My company is VMware here. I'll call Sdbc as my department, if I will. And then it's going to ask me for my root domain name, right? So this thing like your company name. In this instance, I chose VMware.com. That's the company I work for. It's my DNS that I have access to. But from there, Cloud Foundation itself, the instance is going to have a subdomain. And for this environment, I did sdbc.vmware.com. You could do, you know, VCF rack1.acme.com, whatever is going to fit into your environment. SSO domain with the common vSphere.local. You could change that if you wanted to, but we'll use vSphere local. You can apply your licensing as needed for Sdbc manager, and we'll click next. And here we have the ability now to start putting in things such as our VLANs and our IP addresses, our DNS and such. And what this is going to do is allows us to say, I want to use a specific VLAN and subnet mask for right now the management portions of the stack. So think about vSphere. It's got the management VM kernel interfaces. I'm setting the gateways. I'm setting the DNS that's going to be used here, secondary DNS as well as NTP, and it's setting this programmatically. But one of the other cool, interesting things it's doing is also programming the switches, because we use this concept called the hardware management service. It has the ability to talk to the switches and configure the VLANs, configure the lag aggregation groups, any of the uplinks for me on the switches. I have this ability to use defaults, and what defaults basically does here is it goes ahead and pre-configures a set of IP addresses and VLANs. I'm going to override the VLANs, kind of keep something consecutive here. So 2201. I see the addresses that it's pre-selected. You can change that. You don't have to use the defaults. You could use your own IP scheme if you want to. But for this demo, I wanted to make it really quick and easy to show. I'll put in my new VLANs here. So I did vMotion. I did vSAN. I'm doing one for vExpert, my NSX overlay. Put these guys in. And lastly, it's going to ask me for my data center uplink. So this is my uplink connectivity to my corporate network. This is basically my connectivity from my TORs out to my data center fabric. And I'll give it a name called uplinks here, and I'll give the subnet a subnet mask as well as a gateway in the next couple screens here. So 164.0. I'll give it a /22. I'll use a /22 here, and then I'll provide it a gateway here. All right. And once that's completed, here, we're ready to move forward. and we'll say what kind of connection I want to use. We have the ability to use an L2 or L3 connection up to our data center network. We chose to use an L2. We'll enable the multi-link aggregation, and I'll put in the ports on my tours from 51 to 54 are going to connect up and give me my data center connection, and what those will be 40 gig. Those are 40 gig ports. All right. All this is pre-configured in the appliance. And here I can see the last part is showing me, hey, these are all the VLANs and networks that I put in for this process. And what happens here is it has the ability to do an IP address management, and it's basically presenting here and say, here's your vCenters, your PSCs, here's the IP addresses, as well as the DNS names that are going to be assigned to those. So if you actually would see that here, for example, at the very bottom it says rack1 psc2.sdbc.vmware.com. It's pre-configuring the DNS for me, and it's pre-configuring the IP address that's going to be associated with that. So confirm, and what's going to happen is it's going to go out and begin to configure the entire stack. And because it's an automation engine, it's configuring everything for me. I can see here that it's actually running a series of processes. Everything that you would typically do manually, whether it's setting up the host, deploying your PSCs, deploying your vCenters, deploying NSX, establishing NSX, you're preparing your host, creating your segment IDs, creating controllers, deploying Log Insight, integrating Log Insight with all the aspects, right? Even deploying vRealize operations. All those aspects would typically, be a manual processing and could take days. We can do within a matter of couple hours by automating the entire process. So here at the end of this process, it's deployed it's deployed vSphere, it's configured vSAN, it's deployed my PSCs, my NSX managers, my controllers, deployed vRealize Log Insight, vRealize operations, and it's integrated the entire set, and it's prepared everything for consumption. It's even done the VDS and default storage policies. So here I can click on this next link, and it'll take me to the configuration. So I'll log in now with my administrator at vSphere Local, and this is a really kind of cool part, which actually we'll hold it better later on. We log in with that administrator vSphere Local account, and it'll prompt us to change the passwords, which is actually kind of cool to see, because from here we'll connect to the appliance. We do want to make this a little bit easier, but what you want to see here is we'll connect to the appliance, log in, and we'll go to the home VRAC bin, and inside here we'll see a shell script, and this shell script for VRM CLI gives us the ability to look up all the passwords for the entire system. So think about all the passwords that are used for NSX Manager, Edges, administrator vSphere Local, host, etc. It gives us the ability to bring all those back, and these are all the default passwords you see here. But one of the cool parts is that we have the ability to do a rotation. We have the ability to go in and say, I want to rotate all the passwords, and it will go through and rotate rotate all the passwords, and then you have the ability to look at those passwords if you want from the VRM appliance, and see that everything now has a unique password. And you can do this anytime. You can change passwords. You can change passwords for individual components, but it gives the ability, when we get done, we now have nice new complex passwords, and then they're default passwords in our kit. And once we log in here, we now see Sdbc managers online. I have a workload domain. I can look at this workload domain and see there's my management workload domain. Management workload domain consists of vSphere, vSAN, and NSX, all pre-configured for me. I have four hosts with a specific amount of capacity. Here I can see that these are all the IP addresses, again, that were used in the DNS entries. I can see my vCenter info, and there's a link for vCenter here that will take me out to the vCenter instance that's been deployed for me. I click on the vCenter, it will use a SAML authentication, take me directly to the vSphere and authenticate me. I can go in here and click on the host and clusters. And from here, I can expand out and see that this entire setup here with the four hosts, all the appliances specifically for Sdbc Manager, NSX, the controllers, everything's been provisioned for me. I can look at the storage configuration. Right now, look in the host configuration. We'll go down to storage, and I'll see that I have a location for my vSAN data store has been deployed for me, right? Because that's usually the primary storage. And I can see that I've got my storage. I've got 33 terabytes, 34 terabytes, 34.5 terabytes of capacity, 33 available. I can look at my networking. I can see that this is automatically pre-configured my VDS for the management domain. So if I expand here, you'll see the port groups that have been configured. All this has been done automatically. Really, by putting a couple cool nifty parameters, it's done the work for me. And it's also gone through and configured NSX. So it's prepped the host, it's configured and it's deployed my controllers, my 3 controllers. It's even gone through and configured the VXLAN overlay on the host, as well as configuring my segment IDs and my initial transport zone. So you can see segment IDs, and you see the transport zone has been configured. So really, really cool. It's done all that for me to make my life far easier. Now, once we've done that, we've now established the foundation for the software-defined data center. I've got all my big management, my nice management cluster there. It's got vSAN, it's got vRealize operations. All my management pieces can run there. But now I need to run. Now I need to do something, and I want to run workloads, right? I want to, take additional. I had 12 nodes. I wound up using 4 of them for management. I've got additional nodes out there. I want to do something with them. I want to put workloads on them. And for that, we create workload domains. So the next demo is actually showing the process of creating a workload domain. I'll flip over here real quick. And inside the user interface, once you log into the Sdbc Manager interface, there's this blue box up here that says Add Workload Domain. And you have 2 options. You've got one for Configure VDI and Configure VI. And VDI is for virtual desktops, and VI is for virtual infrastructure. In this instance, we're going to configure one for virtual infrastructure, but it's good to note that the Configure VDI does the same thing, but it also gives us the ability to automatically layer in on top Horizon and app volumes on top of it for you by also asking for some cool parameters. So in here, we create say Configure VDI. And I want to give it this new domain, this what we call workload domain. And think of a workload domain as taking physical resources that are available and carving them up and putting them into logical capacity, or vSphere clusters or multiple clusters, put them in logical capacity. So I basically said, I want to create a workload domain. I'm going to call it TMM01 here, and I'll give it an organization, a name of VMware. And it presents me with some very basic question that says, hey, what do you want the performance and availability to be? And what these basic 2 questions are asking by providing, say I want balanced here, or I want, high availability. What it's doing is actually configuring the default storage policy-based management for vSAN. It's configured the vSphere HA policies, as well as vSphere DRS, strike width, and things like that, as well as percent object reservation on top of vSAN. By asking you just a couple questions, it's applying policies on the back end during the automation flow. So here I'll say, how much capacity I need, and I'm going to fill this out and say, I want 150 gigahertz. I want, 1152 gigs of memory, and I want 10 terabytes of storage, right? I can see my available and my total here. I'll tell it to use my default networks, the same networks I created earlier, just to make this demo go a little bit quicker. Give it an uplink for my uplink network. And from here, I can see that it's going to establish a new VDI, a new infrastructure, virtual infrastructure workload domain based off 3 hosts, right? In my first rack that I created, it's going to take host 102, 104, and 105 and create a workload domain. And I click Finish, I'll click Confirm, and in the background, it starts a workflow. So Sdbc Manager is now doing the heavy lifting for me. And if I go here and look at my task in the interface, I can see that I have a task running here to create this new resource, this VI resource pool TMM01. I click on that and go to my subtask, and I can see all the tasks that are running in the background. I went through really fast here, but what it's doing is it's taking hosts that are available in my capacity of physical hardware. It's carving them up to logical capacity. It's laying down, it's deploying a vCenter, it's linking up with my platform service controllers, it's deploying NSX in the same manner it did before, it's laying down my NSX controllers, configuring my VDSs, configuring my vSAN data store, and all the policies, HA, DRS, all that's being done for me, and even integrating it into vRealize operations and log insight. So it does that in a matter of, I think on a physical environment, it's like 20 to 30 minutes in like a four node here. So it does it really, really super fast, and I'm not having to do anything to touch it and do it. It does it for me. It makes it easier for me to get to an operating model far faster. And now I can see that I have one VI workload domain down here. I look in the details. I can say there it is, TMM01 deployed. I can see that there's the virtual infrastructure details. I've got 26 terabytes of storage. I've got there's my amount of CPU and my memory and my status. Here I can see my vCenter, and by clicking this vCenter option here, does the same thing. And now it's taken me out to the vCenter that's specifically for this environment. It's actually creating a separate vCenter instance and linking those under a common SSO domain. Here I can see, I have 3 hosts down here at the bottom. 3 hosts are available. I can see the virtual machines. I have my NSX controllers have been deployed on top of the workload domain. I have my data stores here, my vSAN data store. I can see my distributed switch has been configured for this specific workload domain, TMM01 here, and I can look at the networks that have also been configured for that switch. All those ports have been configured for me, and it's been done automatically through Sdbc Manager. I had to do very, very little to get it to that point. If I look at my host and clusters, I can see now I have two vCenter instances, one for rack VC1 and one for rack VC2. That rack VC2 is the vCenter specifically for my new workload domain, but they're in a linked mode here, using an enhanced linked mode, and I have visibility to both of those. But down here, you can see that I have 3 hosts. I have my NSX controllers are deployed, and my cluster is ready to go. So the other piece I want to show is there's always the case where you may get to a point and say, you know what, I need more resources, right? That first 3-node workload domain, you're deploying workloads to it, and things are going well. But you're starting to need more capacity, right? Maybe you want more availability settings because it was a 3-node vSAN, and if I have a host failure and I'm doing maintenance, I want to make sure I have enough availability. And, you want to add more resources. Well, if there's additional, I look here and I had 11 hosts available, right? 11 hosts in this environment. Sorry, it wasn't 12 in this recording. 11 hosts, right? I've already consumed 7 of them, so I want more. I have more available capacity. So I have the ability to go to my workload domain here, and I'm going to go to that TMM01. Now in this instance, I actually had four nodes. I'm going to add enough resources for 5. I go to TMM01 here. I see here in this demo, it's a separate demo. There's 4 nodes available in this environment, right? But I'm going to add, just say for the sake of this demo, say it had tons of resources being used, and I wanted to add more capacity. That's not a problem, right? We can totally do that. By going into this domain here, workload domain, I have this option to expand a workload domain. I also have the ability to delete it if I wanted to. But we're going to choose the ability to expand the workload domain, add more capacity, and that additional capacity could be in terms of I want to add more CPU, memory, or storage. I'm actually going to tell it that I want to add, this additional, 55 gigahertz. I want to add another 384 gigs of RAM, another 1.5 terabytes of storage, right? What that's going to do, click the next here, it's going to go through and calculate, okay, that's in the capacity. We're going to add one more host. We're going to add host 109 here, right? We're going to pick this from the pool, and we're going to go connect to the out of band, connect to in band, and configure it, and add it to your vSAN cluster, prepare it for NSX, bring that into all those processes that you typically have to do manually. We're going to do it for you and do it really, really super quick. So I hit confirm. It launches a workflow in the back end, and I'll go take a look at that workflow next, right? So here, I'll go down here and look at a workflow that's running, and I can say expanding TMM01, right? We created it before, now we're expanding it. I can look at the subtask, and I can see what's happening in the back end. It's now adding that to my resource pool, right? Or it's adding that physical resource now into my logical pool and into my workload domain. And what happens here? I'll go to the dashboard. Right, I can look at my view details, and I can see that this has been expanded, and now I have 5 hosts. Right, and previously saw in the vSphere web client I had 4. Now I have 5 hosts because I've added essentially another node. If I go here and look at my web client and click on refresh, you'll see it go from 4 nodes. Sorry, it go from 4 nodes to 5, and now I have 5 nodes. Right, so this .34 has been added. This 160.34. That previous 192.168.100.109 number that you saw previously was actually the out-of-band management IP address, and here we've actually now configured it with all its proper addresses for consumption on the management side. So that was how simple it is to expand the workload domain. I could have said I wanted, 3 terabytes and added a 6 node, but it makes it that simple to deploy. Now, the next thing I want to show, if I can bring this online here, let me flip to the other demo. Give me just a moment. Thought I had it synced up, but I don't. So the next demo, I'm going to show how easy it is to actually do patching and updating in the environment. And when you think about it, when you have an environment and you want to do patching and updating, it's a bit of a process, right? When you look at a standard Sdbc, hey, I want to update. I got a vSphere, I got vSAN, I got NSX, I got all these different pieces. But one of the cool parts that Cloud Foundation does is it takes the complexity out of doing any updates, right? Where you're not having to look at KBs and say, do I do my NSX manager before my PSCs, or do I do my PSC before my vCenter, and what's the right order and process to do it? And think about how much time that takes to do, right? It's a very very manual, hands-on keyboard process. What if we can make that much simpler? And in Cloud Foundation, we do that by having this whole concept of lifecycle management. You see this lifecycle option down here, and we actually give the ability to have Sdbc Manager communicate with my VMware and be able to download bundles. And it's here I see I have this new bundle, right? It's been downloaded. Inside this bundle is software for NSX, vSAN, or whatever pieces that need to be updated. So here I can see a software bundle. This one is for the 2.1 software bundle. I can open it up and it shows me specifically what's inside the bundle, the software, or what's specifically inside this update for Sdbc Manager itself. And I can see the different versions and whatnot here. But it gives me the ability to download, right? So download the new bundle. I'm going to say, yep, I want to download this bundle, right? And it will download it from my VMware, right? So that I can apply this new code base down. I'm going to do the same for the VMware software here. So it's going to download. Once it finishes downloading, I'll see that it flashes up real quick here. I'll see that I have new updates, but I want to look at my inventory. And this lab, I actually had a TMM01, TMM02 workload domains, but I can see my management domain. And my management domain has this version of software 1.2, as you can see here, right? Version 1.2 of VRM and HMS. I want to update that, right? I want to take that to the latest, greatest version of the software. If I go to update here, I can say I want to update my Sdbc Manager. I'll say expand this, and you can see here it says I want to take it from 1.2 to 2.1 for both of these components, these core components. By clicking next, I can schedule. I can say I want to run it now, basically, or schedule it on, say, Saturday at 2 p.m. if I wanted to. And what happens is I can schedule the update, and in the background, the update's going to be running, right, based on my schedule. I can view the update details, and it will take it from being this update scheduled to queued to actual updating. And this flashes by fairly quickly in the demo here. And you can see that it took it from 1.2 to 2.1, and it completed the update. And that's how simple it is using this interface. And we can do the same also, not only just for the software specifically for Cloud Foundation's Sdbc Manager components, but we do the same thing for other components, such as NSX, vSphere, vSAN. So the same process applies here. I'll click here, expand. I want to take these NSX components and these hosts and update them to the latest version. I can select a date. I can schedule the update, see what's scheduled. And in the background here, all these are going to be updated to the latest rev, right? From 6.0 from one build number to another, it's completed. And you can see everything has been updated and completed here. And that's just how simple it is. So Sdbc Manager, just kind of quickly wrap up, is, it gives us now ability to have a fully integrated stack to really unify the Sdbc, give you all the power and capabilities of compute virtualization, storage virtualization, layer 2 to layer 7 network and security, and this nice cool part where the management. So we can do lifecycle management from everything from the bring up, right? From day 0 to day 2, from the bring up to expansion, deletion, and patching and updating, really maintaining that entire environment throughout its life cycle. It has the ability to talk to not only the physical systems on inbound and outbound, it also talks to the host, but it also talks to the specified ready switches that we use in the ready systems, configures the port groups and networks, all the uplinks for you to make it really work as a system. And that's one of the really cool, powerful pieces about that. So you can run your app, so you can run your traditional apps, you run your new cloud native apps or what have you. You can take this and say, you know what, I want to expand this out to the hybrid cloud. So maybe you want to use IBM Bluemix with Cloud Foundation. You want to extend that to hybrid cloud. You can bridge these two environments together. You can put vRealize automation on top of this and by simply saying, hey, those workload domains that I can spin up real quickly from available resources, I want to link vRealize automation to connect to them as endpoints, so I can now consume those new workload domains as endpoints to provision new workloads. So very, very powerful tool. I will leave you with a URL right here down at the bottom. You can learn more. You get a vmwa.re/VCF. What that will do is take you to a new reference site that kind of threw up this week. Let me see if I can bring it online here. Oh, yep, I do have it right here. A quick reference guide basically has a link to everything. So if you go to the vmwa.re/VCF, it'll take you to this page. William Lamb has a blog post about it on his site. But the product page, release notes and documentation, how to follow us, other videos, where you find us on Twitter. We do have a blog. We have events that are always being scheduled, whether it's social labs or things like this DemoCast. Where can you get more things like our data sheets? We have an HOL that has a simulation. You actually get the ability to go through some of these exact demos and simulations. If you take this hands-on lab, it's been updated as of April 21st, I believe. There's a fundamentals course. There's a digital poster out there you can download. And we have tons of new videos that we just released last week, I believe. Some overview videos on storage, network, a technical overview, and then demo videos of the same process that I showed you, and more with a voiceover. So with that, I'm going to open up for any questions that anyone may have.
Awesome demo. Thank you so much, Ryan. Really, really cool stuff. And I'm sure, like me, many of the people out there in the audience are still kind of learning about Cloud Foundation. Exactly what is it? I learned it's not just a package. It's not just a suite of, say, vSphere, vSAN, and NSX together. There's much more to it than that. And Sdbc Manager seems to be really that biggest secret sauce that's in that mix.
Yes.
So we do have some questions here from the audience, and I think we've done a great demo of Cloud Foundation in roughly 30 minutes. So if anybody else, if you want to drop off, you can do that and get back to work. But if not, we got some questions here from the audience. So stay tuned. So the first one here is vCenter included with Cloud Foundation?
Oh, great question. So from a licensing perspective, vCenter is not actually included in the licensing packaging, but all we actually require is you bring one license of vCenter. So when you look at Cloud Foundation, it will spin up multiple instances of vCenters for workload domains and management, but we're not actually charging you for those. We only need one license. Just bring one license of vCenter, and Cloud Foundation will accept that, and we'll spin up multiple instances of the vCenter. So just one.
Got it. And if I have, say, an existing vSphere infrastructure with vSphere and vCenter and vSAN, is there some way to move to Cloud Foundation?
So Cloud Foundation is really targeted right now toward greenfield environments. So think of that existing environment, well, I'll call it a brownfield, so to speak. Sdbc Manager and Cloud Foundation doesn't have the ability to communicate and say take over or simulate, like the Borg, if you will, your existing brownfield environment. It would be a parallel environment in your parallel kind of Sdbc. You could always run them separately. You could do workload migrations, move workloads from from your brownfield over to the new Cloud Foundation instance, but they would be separate.
Got it. And Rod out there, he's asking, will we see Cloud Foundation with VxRail?
I know there's been some talk and interest about that. I do not know. I can't speak to roadmap on that right now.
Okay. So stay tuned. But good question. Thank you. And another question here is, How does VCF relate to VVD, or the VMware Validated Designs? Do you have to use a validated design with VCF?
So that's a great question. So those are really, you can think of the VVDs as the build your own, right? If you're not, say you don't want to go all hyperconvergence, maybe you have blades, you have existing hardware, but you want to get to an SDDC. So at that point, you can use a VMware Validated Design to get to a full SDDC by leveraging maybe existing investments. Like I said, maybe you have existing storage that you want to use. You maybe have blade servers. You want to build your own SDDC using those. That's a great opportunity to use the VVDs for that, right? Where this comes into play is we want to take the concepts of the same practices that we use in the VVDs, but now we want to do it in a fully automated fashion for you. So it's taking the same practices and design guidance and deploy it automatically for you. You can still take a lot of the day two operations and guidance and same concept and lay over, but this is a validated and tested design. It does not an exact match to the VVD just yet, but stay tuned on more changes on that.
Okay. And if I wanted to, so one option you're saying with VCF is to build my own. Another option is can I buy VCF with hardware, like packaged through a VAR or someone like that?
Absolutely. So there's a couple different routes there's really 3 routes if you think about it to get VCF. And I kind of bucket those into the private cloud, right, and the public cloud, right? So I mentioned, IBM Bluemix has it on the public cloud space, and there's other providers like VMware Cloud Air and what we're doing with Amazon. But on the private cloud side, there's really 2 routes to market. You can build it yourself, right, by getting the specific ready systems, and that's the specific vSAN ready nodes and switches for TORs and spines and management that we work with specifically. And you could build rack, stack, and cable it to the specification in the documentation, all in on documentation, and then you can build it yourself. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can also go to an integrator, right? Turnkey. And so with that, for example, we use Dell EMC. Dell EMC vExpert Sdbc is that solution. It's been all pre-configured with the specific Dell Power Edges they use for their Cloud Foundation instance. They use a specific set of Cisco switches in that, but it's all been rack stacked, cabled for you, and the imaging has been done for you. So when it comes to you on site, it's ready for that power on system validation that we showed in that initial bring up demo, and it's ready to be configured for you. There's also Fujitsu PrimeFlex is another one that's available. And I believe they use their Fujitsu servers, and I think they might be using Brocade switches. Those are two ways to market from an integrated perspective.
Nice. And if I went with one of those where we've got integrated hardware and software, is there a single point of contact?
I believe there is a single point of contact with the Dell EMC side. Yes. Awesome. I don't know much about the Fujitsu PrimeFlex, but I know that that's that single point of contact with the Dell EMC side. Yeah.
Okay. And I think the last question we probably have time for is this person's asking how, you said that SDDC Manager does automation, but of course VMware also has vRealize automation. So how are those two similar and different?
So this is a specific automation that's been specifically set up to instantiate the SDDC, right? To instantiate this build of the SDDC to manage things such as deploying and configuring the environments, pulling them out of pull resources, configuring the hosts, expanding them, deleting them, contracting them, things like that, as well as putting Horizon and such. It is a separate automation tool specifically used to instantiate the SDDC, this new unified platform. It's all done, behind the scenes. It's all API driven. We're using all the native product APIs, but it is not the same solution in the back end of, say, vRealize Orchestrator. It's not the same thing. It's not vRealize automation. It's a very specifically tuned engine. You can think of it more of like a workflow engine specifically for instantiating the SDDC
cool.
in this environment.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, great question.
Cool. Well, I think that's all we have time for, but really great demo today. Thanks so much for being on today, Ryan.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate it. Thank you, David.
Yeah, and thanks everyone out there in the audience for joining us today. Make sure that you check out the URL that I put there in the chat of vmwa.re/VCF for more information on VMware's Cloud Foundation. And watch your email box for more invitations to join the Actual Tech Media DemoCast series. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.